I'm about to tell you something I've never told anyone. Not my therapist, not my best friend, not even my husband. And honestly, I'm terrified of what you'll think of me when I'm done. But I can't carry this secret alone anymore. 3 months ago, my 19-year-old son walked into my bedroom at 2 a.m. and said 3 words that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family, about motherhood, and about myself. Those 3 words? I love you. You're probably thinking, what's so shocking about that? Children tell their parents they love them all the time, right? Except that's not how he said it. Before I tell you what happened that night, I need you to promise me something. Please listen to the whole story before you judge, because I guarantee that whatever you're thinking right now, whatever assumptions you're making about who I am and what kind of mother I must be, you're wrong. My name is Rebecca. I'm 42 years old. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where people still wave to each other and know their neighbors' names. From the outside, my life probably looks perfectly normal, maybe even boring. But secrets don't live on the outside, do they? They live in the spaces between what we show the world and what we hide in the dark. And I've been hiding something in the dark for so long that I've almost convinced myself it isn't real. Almost. So here it is. The truth. The whole ugly, complicated, impossible truth. And I'm warning you right now, this isn't going to be easy to hear. Let me take you back to the beginning, not to that Tuesday night in September. We'll get there. I promise. But to 6 months before that, when the cracks in my marriage first started showing. My husband David is a corporate lawyer, successful, driven, married to his work in ways he never quite managed to be married to me. We'd been together for 23 years, and somewhere along the way we'd stopped being partners and started being roommates who occasionally had sex and split the mortgage. You know that kind of marriage, right? Where you're not fighting, but you're not really connecting either. Where conversations about who's picking up groceries replace conversations about dreams and fears and what you're becoming as people. That was us. David started staying later at the office, then staying overnight. Big case, he'd say. Can't leave the files. And I'd nod and pretend I believed him, because pretending was easier than asking questions I wasn't ready to hear answered, which left me alone in our 4-bedroom house most nights with our son, Marcus. Marcus had always been a good kid, quiet, thoughtful, maybe a little too sensitive for his own good. He'd graduated from high school with honors and decided to take his first 2 years at community college to figure things out before committing to a 4-year university. Translation, he wasn't ready to leave home yet. At first, I thought it was normal. Lots of kids feel overwhelmed by the idea of going away to college, but looking back now, I wonder if he was already fighting feelings he didn't understand. If staying close to home wasn't about fear of the unknown, it was about fear of leaving me. God, even typing that makes me feel sick. Anyway, with David gone most nights, Marcus and I fell into a routine. We'd have dinner together, real, home-cooked meals, not the sad desk lunch or takeout David preferred. We'd talk about our days, his classes, his friends, the books he was reading, my work as a freelance graphic designer, the projects I was excited about, the clients who drove me crazy. We'd watch movies, British detective shows. David always hated those, said they were too slow, but Marcus and I could binge them for hours, trying to solve the mystery before the final reveal. We'd make tea at midnight and sit in the kitchen talking about philosophy, about life, about everything and nothing. It felt good. It felt like I had a companion again, someone who actually wanted to spend time with me. Someone who listened when I talked and remembered the little details I mentioned in passing. I told myself it was just a mother and son getting closer as he matured into adulthood, that we were building the kind of relationship that would last his whole life. I was so naive. Now, before I continue, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you missed all the warning signs? Where you looked back and realized the red flags were there all along, but you were too close to see them? If you have, drop a comment below, because I need to know I'm not the only person who's been this blind. And if you're finding this story compelling or disturbing or thought-provoking or any combination of those things, please hit that subscribe button. These are the kinds of difficult, honest conversations we need to be having about family dynamics, boundaries, and the complicated truth of human relationships. The warning signs were there. I just didn't want to see them, like the way Marcus started dressing better when David wasn't home. Nothing crazy, just putting on a nice shirt instead of his usual hoodie, actually styling his hair. Or the way he'd light candles at dinner for ambiance. Or how he'd always sit next to me on the couch during our movie nights instead of in the armchair across the room like he used to. Or the way his hugs started lasting just a fraction too long. Or how he'd find excuses to touch my shoulder, my arm, my hand. Small things, innocent things, things that could be explained away. Things I did explain away. Because the alternative, acknowledging what was really happening, was unthinkable. Then came that Tuesday in late September. David had texted around 6 p.m. to say he was staying at his downtown apartment. Again. He kept one there for late nights, though I was increasingly sure those late nights involved more than just legal briefs. I should have cared more. I should have been angrier, more hurt, more something. But the truth is, I'd gotten comfortable in David's absence. I'd gotten comfortable with Marcus. Too comfortable. We had dinner. I'd made his favorite, chicken parmesan. We watched 2 episodes of our current detective show. We made tea and talked about a philosophy paper he was writing on the nature of forbidden love in literature. I should have seen it coming. The topic choice alone should have tipped me off. But I didn't see it. I didn't see any of it. We said goodnight around 11:30. I went to my bedroom, changed into my pajamas, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling like I did most nights, wondering when my marriage had died and why I didn't feel sadder about it. I was still awake at 2 a.m. when I heard the knock on my door. "Mom, are you awake?" Marcus's voice, shaking, wrong. "Come in," I said, sitting up and turning on the bedside lamp. He opened the door and stood there in his t-shirt and sweatpants, and I could see immediately that something was terribly wrong. His eyes were red. His hands were shaking. "What happened? Are you okay?" I asked, already moving to get out of bed. "I need to talk to you about something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And I'm so scared, Mom. I'm so scared of what you're going to think of me." My heart was hammering. I thought maybe he was in trouble. Drugs, gambling, something he'd gotten mixed up in at school. I patted the edge of my bed. "Sit down. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. That's what family does." He walked slowly to the bed, but didn't sit. He stood there, looking down at me, and I watched him try to form words several times before anything came out. "I don't know how to say this," he finally managed. "I've been trying to find the right way for weeks, but there isn't a right way. There's just the truth. Marcus, you're scaring me. Just tell me what's going on." He took a deep breath, and then he said it. "Mom, I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. I heard them. I understood them. But my brain couldn't process them. "What?" I whispered. "I'm in love with you," he repeated, and now the words were coming faster, tumbling out like he'd been holding them back for so long they'd built up pressure. "Not like a son loves his mother. I mean in love with you, romantically. I think about you all the time. When I'm in class, when I'm trying to sleep, when I'm supposed to be focusing on anything else. I dream about you. I imagine what it would be like to—" "Stop," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Marcus, stop talking right now." He stopped, looking at me with those eyes. His father's eyes, but softer, more vulnerable, and I watched them fill with tears. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I know it's wrong. I know I'm disgusting. I know I'm a terrible person. But I couldn't lie anymore. I couldn't keep pretending when Dad's gone and it's just us and we're so good together, and I thought maybe..." "Maybe what?" I asked, and my voice sounded strange in my own ears, distant, like I was underwater. Maybe you felt it too. And that's when my world ended. Because the thing is, God help me. The thing is, I couldn't immediately say no. I should have. A good mother would have immediately shut it down, would have been horrified, would have made it crystal clear that this was impossible and wrong and could never, ever happen. But I hesitated. It was only a second, maybe 2, but it was long enough for Marcus to see it, long enough for hope to flash across his face, long enough for me to realize that somewhere, in some dark corner of my heart I'd been refusing to examine, I'd been feeling it too. "Oh God," I breathed. "Oh God, Marcus." "You do feel it," he said, and he moved closer. "Mom, you feel it too, don't you?" "No," I said, but it came out weak, unconvincing. "No, Marcus, this isn't, we can't." "But you hesitated," he pressed. "You didn't say no right away. That means something." I stood up from the bed, putting distance between us, my mind racing. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. I was a good mother. I'd raised him right. I'd been appropriate, boundaried, careful. I'd never done anything. "Except you have," a voice in my head whispered. Those late-night conversations that felt different. The way you looked forward to David being gone so it could be just the two of you. The way you started dressing nicer when you knew it would be a Marcus night instead of a David night. The way his hugs made you feel less lonely. "Marcus, sit down," I said, my voice steadier now. "Sit down and listen to me very carefully." He sat on the edge of my bed, hands clasped between his knees, looking up at me like I held all the answers. I didn't have any answers. I barely had questions that made sense. "I know what you're thinking right now. Trust me, I've thought it all too. How could I not immediately shut this down? What kind of mother even has to think about her response? And you're right to wonder. I've wondered the same thing every day since. But here's what I'm learning. Human psychology is messy. Emotions don't follow the rules we think they should, and sometimes we feel things that terrify us precisely because they're things we know we should never, ever feel. If this story is making you uncomfortable, good. It should. Real life is uncomfortable. And if you're invested in hearing how this impossible situation unfolds, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this channel is dedicated to sharing the stories we're too afraid to tell out loud. "Feelings," I began, trying to find words for something I'd never imagined having to explain, aren't always within our control. You can't choose what you feel, Marcus, but you can choose what you do with those feelings. "I'm not asking to do anything," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know. I needed to stop lying." "I understand that, and I'm glad you felt you could be honest with me. That takes courage." I took a breath. "But you need to understand something. Even if, and I'm not saying I do, but even if I felt something unusual toward you, it wouldn't matter. Do you understand? It wouldn't matter because I'm your mother. That's not a role I can step out of. That's not a boundary we can cross." "Why not?" he asked, and there was genuine anguish in his voice. "If we both feel it, if we're both adults, if Dad clearly doesn't care about you anymore, why not?" "Because that's not how this works," I said, my voice rising. "Marcus, I gave birth to you. I raised you. I'm responsible for you in ways that don't disappear just because you're 19 now. The power dynamic alone makes this impossible." "What power dynamic? I'm not a child." "You're my child. That's the point. I will always have authority over you in ways that make a romantic relationship unconscionable, not to mention illegal in most places, not to mention psychologically damaging, not to mention—" I stopped, took a breath, started again, calmer. "Marcus, I need you to hear me. These feelings you're having, they're probably connected to the stress of your father and I growing apart, to the fact that you're at a developmental stage where you're figuring out adult relationships, but you haven't had much real-world practice, to the fact that we've been spending a lot of time together in ways that maybe started to blur some boundaries. So you're saying it's my fault for misreading things? No, I'm saying it's nobody's fault. I'm saying this is a complicated situation that we need to handle carefully and compassionately." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Do you feel it, Mom? For real? I need to know if I'm crazy or if this is real." This was the moment. The moment where I could have lied, should have lied, would have lied if I were a better person. But I'd spent 23 years in a marriage built on comfortable lies and careful omissions. I'd watched authenticity drain out of my life one polite silence at a time. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't lie to my son when he'd been brave enough to tell me the truth, even though the truth was devastating. "Yes," I whispered. "I feel something I don't fully understand and didn't want to acknowledge. But Marcus, the fact that I feel it doesn't make it okay. It makes it more important that we don't act on it. Do you understand?" His face transformed. Relief, joy, hope, all the wrong emotions flooding through him. "So we both—" "No," I said firmly. "There is no we both. There is you, having feelings you didn't ask for. And there is me, having feelings I'm deeply ashamed of. And there is a line between us that we absolutely cannot cross, no matter what we feel. But why? If it's mutual, it doesn't matter if it's mutual." I was almost shouting now. "Marcus, listen to me. Love isn't enough. Desire isn't enough. The fact that we both feel something doesn't make it right. It makes it dangerous." I sat down next to him, not too close, and made him look at me. "If we crossed this line," I said slowly, "it would destroy you. Maybe not right away. Maybe it would feel good at first. But eventually, you'd realize what we'd done. You'd realize that your mother, the person who's supposed to protect you and guide you, took advantage of a vulnerable moment and damaged you in ways that can't be undone. And you'd hate me, and you'd hate yourself." "No, I wouldn't." "Yes, you would. I know you don't believe that right now, but I'm older. I've lived longer. I can see further down this road than you can, and I'm telling you as your mother that this path leads nowhere good." Tears were streaming down his face now. "So what do? "We live with it," I said. "We acknowledge that it's real. We don't pretend it away, but we don't feed it either. We set boundaries. We both get professional help. We trust that time and distance will shift these feelings into something healthier. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll deal with that when we get there." We sat in silence for a long time. Eventually, Marcus stood up. "I should go back to my room," he said quietly. "Marcus," I called as he reached the door, "thank you for trusting me with this. I know how hard it must have been." He nodded without looking back and left. I sat on my bed until dawn, wondering what I'd just done and whether I'd made everything better or infinitely worse. The next few days were excruciating. Marcus and I implemented strict boundaries. No more late-night conversations, no more shared dinners when David was gone, no more movie nights on the couch. We were cordial at breakfast, polite in passing, and otherwise avoided each other completely. It was awful. The house felt cold and empty in ways it never had before. I found myself missing him, missing our talks, our easy companionship, the feeling of being seen and valued by someone, which only made me feel more guilty. Was this what I'd been getting from Marcus? Validation? Attention? The feeling of being desired that David had stopped providing? Had I been emotionally using my own son to fill the gaps in my marriage? The thought made me physically ill. On day 5 of our new arrangement, I found a therapist. Dr. Sarah Mitchell specializes in family dynamics and ethical dilemmas. I didn't tell her everything at first, just that my son and I had gotten too close and needed to reestablish appropriate boundaries. "It's common," she said, "especially in families where one parent is absent or emotionally unavailable. The remaining parent and child can develop an unhealthy dependency." "But it's more than that," I admitted. He expressed feelings that weren't appropriate, and I didn't shut them down the way I should have." She looked at me carefully. "Why didn't you?" "Because—" I took a shaky breath. "Because I felt them too." To her credit, Dr. Sarah didn't look shocked. She'd probably heard worse. "Tell me about that," she said. So I did. I told her about the loneliness, about David's absence, about the late-night talks and the gradual blurring of boundaries, about that moment of hesitation when Marcus asked if I felt it too. "The question isn't whether you felt something," Dr. Sarah said when I finished. The question is what you do with it. And from what you're telling me, you're handling this far better than most people would. How can you say that? I admitted to my son that I have inappropriate feelings for him. You were honest. You maintained boundaries. You're seeking help. Rebecca, do you know how many people in your position would have either exploded in anger and damaged their child with shame, or worse, acted on the feelings? You did neither. You acknowledged the truth while being clear about boundaries. That takes incredible strength and self-awareness. I started crying. I'd been holding it in for days, and hearing that I hadn't completely failed as a mother broke something open in me. But what do I do now? I asked. You keep doing what you're doing. You maintain boundaries. You work through this in therapy. You encourage Marcus to do the same. And you trust that these feelings will fade with time and appropriate distance. Real talk for a moment. How many of you would have handled this differently? Would you have lied to protect your child? Would you have been more harsh? Would you have told your spouse immediately? I genuinely want to know. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're still with me at this point in the story, thank you. I know this is heavy, but if you think others need to hear this, if you think there's value in talking about the difficult, messy parts of family life that we usually hide, please share this video and subscribe for more honest conversations about the topics we're usually too afraid to discuss. Marcus started seeing a therapist too. I didn't ask him what they talked about. That was his private space, but I could see gradual changes. He started going out more with friends. He signed up for extra classes. He got a part-time job at a bookstore. He was creating distance, creating a life outside of our house. It was healthy. It was good. It also hurt like hell. David came home for a full weekend about 2 weeks after the conversation. He noticed immediately that something was off. You two are being weird, he said over Saturday breakfast. What's going on? Nothing, Marcus said, not looking up from his phone. Just some boundary stuff we're working through, I added. Normal developmental stuff. David looked between us, clearly not buying it, but he didn't push. David never pushes. It's one of his most frustrating qualities. This refusal to engage with difficult emotions or complicated situations. Part of me wanted to scream at him. Your son is in love with me because you abandoned us emotionally. Your marriage is crumbling because you'd rather work 70-hour weeks than spend time with your family. Wake up and fight for us. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I suggested we all see a movie together. Neutral territory, public space, normal family activity. It was awkward and forced, but we got through it. That night, after David had gone to bed, I found Marcus in the kitchen. He was making tea. Old habits die hard. Want some? He offered. I should have said no. I should have maintained the boundary. But I was exhausted from performing normalcy all day, and I missed him. Sure, I said. We made our tea in silence and sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd had so many late-night conversations. This is hard, Marcus said finally. I know. I miss talking to you, like really talking. I miss it too. We sat with that truth for a moment. But we can't go back to how it was, I added. You know that, right? I know, I thought if I saw someone and got some distance, these feelings would go away. But they haven't. They're different. Maybe less intense, but they're still there. My heart sank. Marcus, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I'm just being honest. You were honest with me, so I'm being honest with you. The feelings are still there, but I understand why we can't act on them. I understand it more every day, actually. What changed? He thought for a moment. My therapist asked me something. He asked me what I thought would happen if you and I actually tried to have a relationship, like really walked through the scenarios, and when I did, he shook his head. I realized how much I'd lose. I'd lose my mother. I'd lose respect for myself. I'd probably lose my dad even more than I already have. I'd be in a relationship built on secrecy and shame, and eventually, I think I would start to hate both of us. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's very mature of you. It doesn't make it hurt less. I know. We finished our tea. As he stood to leave, he paused. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you love Dad anymore? The question caught me off guard. I opened my mouth to give an automatic yes, but stopped myself. Honesty. We'd committed to honesty. I don't know, I admitted. I think I love the idea of him, the memory of who we used to be together. But the actual person he is now, the one who chooses work over family every time, I don't know if I love that person anymore. Marcus nodded slowly. Are you going to leave him? I don't know that either. Staying is easier, familiar. And I'm not sure I have the energy to blow up my whole life right now. You deserve better than easy and familiar, Mom. So do you. He smiled sadly. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Yeah, we really are. 6 weeks after that initial conversation, something shifted. I can't point to exactly when or why, but gradually, imperceptibly, the intensity started to fade. Don't get me wrong, it didn't disappear completely. There were still moments, times when our hands would brush and I'd feel that spark, times when he'd laugh and I'd remember why I'd gotten so confused. But the moments got farther apart and easier to manage. Marcus started dating a girl from his biology class, Sarah. She was sweet, smart, age-appropriate. I felt a complicated mix of relief and something else I didn't want to name when he told me about her. David and I started couples therapy. I didn't tell him about Marcus. Dr. Sarah and I had decided that would do more harm than good, but we started addressing the actual issues in our marriage, the emotional distance, the resentment, the slow death of intimacy. It was hard work. Some days I thought we'd make it. Other days I was sure we wouldn't. But at least we were trying. One night, about 3 months after everything started, Marcus knocked on my door again. Not at 2 a.m. this time, around 9 p.m., while David was in his study on a conference call. Can we talk? He asked. Of course. We sat in my room, same spots as before, but everything felt different now. Calmer, safer. I wanted to thank you, Marcus said. For what? For not making me feel like a monster, for being honest with me even when it was hard. For helping me understand that feelings aren't the same as actions. He paused. I was doing some reading for my philosophy class about moral luck, the idea that we judge people partly on outcomes they can't control. And I realized, we got lucky, Mom. We could have made terrible choices, but we didn't. We didn't, I agreed. Sarah asked me why I seem sad sometimes, he continued. And I wanted to tell her everything, but obviously I couldn't, so I just said I've been working through some complicated family stuff, which is true. How are things with her? Good. Different from... He trailed off. Different from what I felt with you. Less intense, but healthier. More normal. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. I think I'm going to transfer to a university next semester, he said. Not too far, maybe an hour or two away. I think I need some physical distance, not because I'm running away, but because I need to build a life that isn't so centered on home, on you. It hurt to hear, but I knew he was right. I think that's a really good idea, I said. Will you be okay? He asked. With Dad and everything? I'll be okay. One way or another, I'll be okay. I love you, Mom. The normal way, the son way. I love you too, sweetheart. He hugged me before he left. A normal hug. A son hugging his mother. It felt right. So here's where I am now, almost 4 months later. Marcus is preparing to transfer to a state university 2 hours away. He and Sarah are still together. He seems lighter, happier, more settled. David and I are complicated. We're working on things. Some days are better than others. I don't know if we'll make it, but I'm trying. I still see Dr. Sarah every week. We're working through a lot, my marriage, my sense of identity, my relationship with boundaries and honesty. And Marcus and I? We're good. Not the same as we were before, but good in a new way. We text regularly. We have dinner as a family once a week. We're rebuilding a mother-son relationship that's appropriate and healthy. The feelings, the complicated, inappropriate ones, they're fading. Some days I don't think about them at all. Other days they surface briefly, but they don't have the same power they used to. Here's what I've learned from all of this. Feelings don't make you a monster. Actions do. We can't always control what we feel, but we can always control what we do with those feelings. Honesty is complicated. Sometimes lies feel kinder in the moment, but I think honesty, real, vulnerable honesty, is what saved us. It let us deal with reality instead of festering in secrets. Boundaries exist for a reason. They're not arbitrary rules designed to make life harder. They're protections, guardrails. They keep us from driving off cliffs. Good therapy is worth its weight in gold. I don't know where Marcus and I would be without professional help, probably in a much darker place. And finally, you can love someone and still choose not to be with them. You can feel a pull towards someone and still step back. Desire doesn't have to become destiny. I don't know if I'm a good mother. I really don't. A good mother probably wouldn't have let things get as muddled as I did. A good mother probably would have seen the warning signs earlier and course-corrected before a 2 a.m. confession became necessary. But I'm a real mother, a human mother, a mother who makes mistakes and feels things she shouldn't and does her best with imperfect information and complicated emotions. And maybe that's all any of us can be. So here's what I need to know from you. If you were in my position, what would you have done? Would you have lied to protect your son's feelings? Would you have been harsher? Would you have told your spouse? Would you have handled the boundaries differently? And if you were Marcus, what would you have wanted from your mother in that moment? Leave your honest thoughts in the comments. And please, no judgment, just real talk about what you genuinely think you would have done in an impossible situation. If this story resonated with you in any way, if it made you think or feel or question your assumptions about family and boundaries and the messy reality of human emotions, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that life is complicated and we don't always fit into neat boxes of good and bad. Because these are the conversations we need to be having. The real ones. The uncomfortable ones. The ones about the gaps between who we're supposed to be and who we actually are when life gets messy. I'm going to keep sharing these stories. Stories about real people facing impossible choices. Stories that don't have easy answers or clean resolutions. Stories that remind us that we're all just humans trying our best not to break ourselves and the people we love. And to anyone out there who's facing their own impossible situation right now, whatever it is, I want you to know. You're not alone. You're not a monster. You're a human being with complicated feelings trying to navigate an imperfect world. Get help, set boundaries, be honest, even when it's terrifying, and trust that you can feel things without acting on them. You can survive this. I promise. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for not judging too harshly. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and remember, we're all just doing our best. See you in the next one.